What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday. Wednesday the 16th.
It's the 16th.
Yeah, because yesterday definitely was the 15th, tax day, and it sucked, basically. But yeah, yesterday was terrible. Every year I do taxes in like the 1st of February as soon as I can. This past year, being self-employed, not putting as much money in, and then having 1099s from the sites and the 1099K from PayPal, it was a pain. I'm not gonna. I was having a late night deduction sweat last night. Davis, you talked about earlier you not wanting to file for taxes. Just please tell me that you filed your taxes.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
No, I really didn't.
Oh, Davis! No! Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, with that being said, we'd like to welcome everybody to the InsidersTV Day Fancy MLB show.
I'm going to jail.
Oh, gosh. Derek Carty is going to be joining us any moment, but Davis Maddock is also on the show with us.
Cardi strikes me as someone who would pay his taxes.
Oh, yeah. I think...
No, okay, everyone had their fun. We made fun. I emailed all the sites. I didn't make enough in withdrawals to have to do the 1099 until 2014. So that's why I didn't file taxes. Everyone can laugh at how irresponsible I am, but all my bases are covered. So thank you.
Oh, man. Now, someone wants to know if you got an extension. I hope they're talking about taxes. All right. So, moving on to today, what's going on in the industry. On DraftKings, there is a 50K event, the last NBA event of the season for them. I know that Draft Street, I think, has a big score. Grant Gurton with Fantasy Elite also came out with a big promotion today. He's actually going to be in Nashville, and I'm going to get to eat with him. That's what I'll be doing. I'll be eating, and he'll be talking. I just have a feeling that's how.
Oh yeah. That's how Gurton rolls.
That's how it rolls. That's how it rolls. So anxious to sit down with him tonight to hear more about it. But yeah, I think his app is perfect for playoff basketball. You don't have to worry about scratches. There's a limited slate of games for 3 or 4 games. You want to get action in. You want to have people playing in that game. Last year, I didn't get into playoff basketball because there really wasn't any sort of DFS. This year, I will with their app. So that is going to be really cool. And again, DraftKings night, top 50, get $1,000 each. So last I looked, there was some overlay. Hopefully, you're subscribed to Drew and Mike's Daily Fantasy Rundown. Last one of the season for them. I know they're pumped as well. I do want to talk.
Oh, they're so happy. They're so happy.
Yeah, I mean, April by far the busiest month in daily fantasy. So it's a crazy month.
Except for me, because every year I just take April off.
Yeah.
Because I'm busy, so I just I haven't played NBA in 3 weeks.
Right. I mean, not everyone has the luxury of saying, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go with my girlfriend to a fun place like. Where you go to Arizona State?
Yeah, but that's not what happened. I barely got to see her when we were there.
No. Why?
Because we were busy, man. We were competing. We were doing our events and whatnot.
Did you compete? Let's see if I get this right. Did you compete against each other?
No, we do different events. There's 11 events under the umbrella of the American Forensics Association. And I do 6 of them, and she does 5 of the other ones. Works out pretty nicely.
People in the chat are loving your attire. All right, so I do want...
This shirt is sick. It's got Biggie on it.
Late round QB, I just saw a notice saying something about you giving a take on Chris Johnson. So maybe.
My take is LOL. That's my take. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah. What happened with Chris Johnson?
I mean, he's just like that's what happens with running backs when they get older. Like especially running backs that are reliant on speed, they just are not as good. Yeah, that's what happens.
All right, let's get into.
Oh no, he got signed. He got signed by the Jets. That's what happened, Dave.
Yeah. Well, I figured that he did. I hadn't kept up with NFL Twitter today.
NFL Twitter is the worst Twitter.
It's the worst, and the fact
It's so bad.
the fact they push back the draft day only makes it like that much worse in April. It's terrible. Now, come May, I'll start keying back in when the draft talks come, but everyone has their own opinion. Speaking of, DraftKings has in a little bit of hot water with some of the players because of something they are doing with their lineups. I haven't seen to see if they have come out with an official stance, but they did. They did basically remove players, supposedly, from the player list once the MLB games got rained out. So not only did they send like an email and have like a notification, but they removed players from player pool. Talking off the air earlier, you say you don't have a problem with them removing players.
I don't know. I mean, it's not because so for all of us who are quote unquote grinders, right? Like we already know not to take those players. So what that's doing is for all the players who we need to have around to stay profitable, it's helping them. Like, yeah, we're all think we're really great at this, but the fact of the matter is only 5% of people can stay profitable at any given time, something like that. So you need new money, you need bad players to not have a bad taste in their mouth. So I don't really have a problem with it.
Well, CB35 in the chat saying that basically they did make an official post today. I guess they're on the Rotogrinders thread where the original post was, and said that they wouldn't be removing players in the future. Removing players is a bad thing. Like I know a lot of players that want to keep their edge over people having, I guess having that edge over weather and scratches. You know, it happens a lot on FanDuel. But it also discourages player retention. I mean, someone comes up at first and they start playing and then they lose and they don't come back and play. So I understand the reasoning why DraftKings is like making it easier. I'm glad though they came out and said they wouldn't be doing it in the future. Here's what you cannot have. You can't be having two different players seeing different player pools, basically. You can't have player A. You can't have, like, if me and you are playing in a head-to-head and I make a lineup earlier in the day, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I take some guys that are not in there, like, you can't have that where you then come and...
So it was, okay, so say I buy into the game at 8 a.m. Those players would have stayed in my player pool, but if I would have bought in at 4 p.m., they weren't in there. It wasn't removed from the people who had already bought in?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay, well, no, you can't do that. Then I'm with you guys. Then that's messed up.
Yeah, well,
that's not. Okay. I didn't understand.
Well, props to DraftKings for coming out and saying they won't do it in the future. It's a lesson learned. I thought that they would be. You think that is kind of common sense, but sometimes when a company is so large, you have people that may make decisions that's not best for not only their side but the industry, and that would definitely is one. So. Kudos to them for coming out. We do have Derek, who is available now. We're going to talk some baseball with him. So let me get him on the line.
Oh, you stretched that phrase out.
Let me get him on.
Well, you just took about 25 seconds to say that sentence while you were messing around with your computer. Something I've noticed in radio, because I listen to podcasts a lot, anytime someone's like, oh, we're going to bring this guest on, or oh, I'm trying to pull this spreadsheet up, they just they just really elongate their words.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was elongating. Derek, how goes it, bud? I don't think Derek's mic is plugged in.
No,
It was not. Okay.
It is
okay.
now, though. Okay, good. We're good to go. Derek, we've been waiting for you. You look great. T-shirt looks great. Let me set up that shot for everybody in a second. Let's get started on pitchers. Davis, who are some pitchers that you're on? And I'll let Derek tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, cool. So I haven't taken Jose Fernandez yet this year, so that's who I'm taking across the board tonight. I'm going to take him over Darvish just because of the run environment that they're in. I know Strasburg got shelled there last night. Ugh. But, yeah, I'm on Jose Fernandez versus the Nationals.
Derek?
So I'm supposed to tell him why he's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yes, basically.
Okay, well, Davis, I do think you're wrong. I think Darvish is actually the guy tonight.
Of
I mean,
course.
Texas is a hitter's park, obviously, but that's where he pitches half of his games anyway. And I think he has a much weaker opposing offense in the Mariners compared to Fernandez having to deal with the Nationals. I mean, obviously having King Felix, on the mound in the other half.
Oh, yeah,
half
I
of the
forgot
game
about that.
Yeah, I mean that's tough, but I still think I would rather take Darvish, take a little bit surer, rate stats. He's going to go deep into the game. He's going to get strikeouts. He's not going to allow runs. And then wins are kind of so fickle to begin with. I mean, I like Darvish.
I'm sticking with Fernandez because I hadn't even factored in the win stuff yet, but I actually kind of like some of the Miami hitters tonight against Rourke. So, yeah, I think I'm sticking with Fernandez.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Miami could have a solid night offensively behind Fernandez, but I don't know. I like Darvish's chances better.
That Marlins stack did work last night.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that was one of the worst things ever. Like, Strasburg in an extreme pitcher's park against this awful lineup that K's all the time, and it's just by the second inning, toast. Just done.
He had to have been tipping his pitches or something had to have been wrong. I didn't see the game. I saw the box score after 2 innings and then threw my computer across the room and stormed out. But
you guys remember that game when he got Tiger Balm on his nuts?
No. Wait, what?
That happened.
No.
Happened. Yeah. No, this happened, I think it was last year. It might have been his first season. When he had to come out of a game and he gave up 2 home runs because he had some Tiger Balm, some icy hot type stuff, and it got on his balls and he had to get pulled out of the game. That happened.
How did I miss this?
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard of it. If someone has a link, if this happened, there will be a link out there. Someone please provide us with a link.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Got icy hot on his balls. Deadspin is right there.
Post that in the chat room so I can see this.
I just posted it. It's real. It happened.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
So maybe he's just not very careful, and that's what happened.
Someone said that he always struggles with those first 2 innings, and if he gets past the first 2 innings, then he does good. But he struggles early, so that might.
I bet the numbers do not bear that out. That sounds super anecdotal.
And if they do, I would guess that it's random because for most pitchers it works the other way around. They get worse as the game goes on, and hitters get more of a look at them and kind of realize what they're dealing with that day.
You're just laughing about the fact that Strasburg had icy hot on his nuts, aren't you?
And then someone else posted about Roger Clemens getting rubbed down. I mean, the chat is where you want to be today, basically. All sorts of good stuff going on there. All right, so Fernandez versus you. You're taking you. As far as price goes,
I haven't looked at anywhere but FanDuel yet, so maybe there's a huge difference in price and Fernandez is more expensive somewhere.
I think Darvish, if I recall, was more expensive. But...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On DraftKings, Darvish is 12.6 and Fernandez is 11.1.
Yeah, see, that's not even a conversation for me.
Well,
I don't know. I really like the Nationals' offense. I mean, even though he's got the park and the home field advantage going for him, I don't know. The Nationals' offense scares me, whereas Seattle's not as much.
Yeah, they got some. Seattle has some hitters. They have some professional. They put together professional at bats.
It's
That's
true,
not
and
a real.
Seattle is
No, that's not a real thing.
Seattle's better than they've been in past years, and they're very lefty heavy with some quality lefties. Um, but I don't know. Darvish is just a beast.
Someone in the chat's asking about Pineda. Are you on him?
I'm definitely on Pineda. Yeah, I think Pineda would be my second favorite guy tonight. I like Tanaka. He went earlier today. I think he did well,
Yeah.
although I didn't check.
He did.
Pineda basically has the exact same matchup. It's a favorable one at home against a crappy Cubs offense. Travis Wood is the opposing pitcher. He's terrible. He's probably going to get rocked. He's one of my favorite guys to stack against today. And Pineda now, he's working basically with the best catcher he's ever worked with in his entire life, in Brian McCann. So I like Pineda today.
Is that something you put a lot of stock into, like pitch framing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially now that we're able to quantify it, we can see just how much a guy like Brian McCann will add to.
Well, I know
pitcher.
it matters for seasonal fantasy. Like that's definitely something. But I guess, does your projection system take umpire stuff into account at all?
It does.
Cool, because something I've noticed, because I got the MLB game day app, is sometimes it's just you'll see called strikes that just make you roll your eyes so hard, and so I think having the umpire data is actually something definitely to pay attention to.
Yeah, umpires. Umpires basically only affect strikeouts and walks, but they affect strikeouts and walks as much or more than parks do, which is 10%, 15%. So umpires can definitely have a big effect.
Yeah.
You did mention Pineda as your second favorite pitcher for tonight, which is interesting. He is not on FanDuel?
No, he is.
He is? Oh, I don't know. When I wrote the article up early last night because I was tired and upset at Strasburg and I wanted to go to bed. And FanDuel and Draft Day didn't have him listed at the time.
It's probably because they did the all-game slates. They featured the first game and not the second game.
No, he's in the late slate. I'm looking at him right now. 5.8.
Yeah, he's 5,800.
5.8. That's cheap.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. He is cheap pretty much across the board. And if you like him, he's
yeah,
gonna,
I kind of envision some people kind of shying away from him after his whole dirt on his hand or whatever he wanted to call it, but it was pine tar, and clearly he's not going to be using it today with people scrutinizing him. So I kind of thought people might be shying away from him, but at that price, maybe not. For me, I'm all over that.
Is that a no-no when people use pine tar?
Technically, it's a no-no.
Lots of pitchers do it though.
Tweeted or said.
I think
his biggest rival team, and he's like, I don't give a shit.
I don't know what you just said. I just heard the last sentence. It sounded very much Davis Maddock-esque. I do remember that baseball game where you could do a combo button, and it would spit on the ball. You could do a spitball. That was pretty awesome. It was for Sega Genesis. If someone has a GIF of that, please post it in the chat. All right, let's talk about...
1 second. I like Cashner more than Pineda, I think.
Okay.
Because, as the chat noted, McCann is not catching. Not that actually really factors into the decision, but I just think that Pineda's really good, but we have a whole sample size of him in New York versus what we're seeing over these last two starts, and he wasn't good at all in New York before this. And Cashner just is really good at home, and he throws really hard, and I just like guys who throw really hard.
He did have 11 strikeouts and a complete game last game, pitching in his home park. So
I bet that I'm going to guess that Derek likes him, just not as much as Pineda.
You were cutting out for a second there. You're saying Andrew Cashner?
Yeah.
I like Cashner in general. I don't know. I think that...
Derek, we are having some issues with your connectivity. So
hitters would have because they play in cores. But Colorado has a good offense. Even Park Independent, they have a good offense.
all right, we'll get with Derek. Eventually he'll stop talking and hopefully see that we are losing connection with him. So let's go ahead. We don't need Derek anymore. What do we need Derek for this baseball show?
No, we know all about baseball.
Yeah. Hey, we don't need Derek. Hey, Derek, you're back. You're cutting out on us, basically.
Yeah, you're cutting out on me too. This should be a non-issue tomorrow. I'm getting my Ethernet cord, so I'm thinking maybe that's what it is.
Yes.
Life-changing, dude. It's life-changing.
I told him, Davis. I told him it was. Thank you, Amazon. So basically, talking about hitters for tonight at the catcher spot, noted that McCann is not going to be pitching, and they've got Murphy catching instead. I don't see anything else out there as far as catcher news, but who are some catchers that you like tonight, Davis?
I'm gonna go with a little bit of homerism. I'm gonna say Salvador Perez. Anytime he gets to go up against in the opposite-handed matchup, I like him.
And he's hitting in the 3 spot.
Yeah, that's Ned Yost is drunk, I think, because he's giving Moustakas a day off, which he never does, and he's giving Aoki a day off, which he doesn't start. Alcides Escobar once played 95% of Kansas City's available innings at shortstop. He just doesn't give guys the night off.
Yeah. Thoughts on Salvi Perez, Derek?
I like Salvi Perez tonight. I think he has a good matchup. I mean, Kukel's a ground ball guy, but he's getting a better park tonight. Kukel is pretty terrible in general, so I think Perez has a good matchup tonight. He's one of the catchers I'd be zeroing in on.
The numbers guy 81 says Posey number 1, Perez number 2. Don't have a line.
I never pay for Buster Posey.
Why?
In 2 years of playing MLB DFS, I've never played him.
Well, that's a mistake on your part.
Is it?
I think Posey is obviously the top catcher tonight, but I think the profit margin on him is going to be smaller than people think. Paul Maholm's actually a pretty decent pitcher, but obviously he's not great, and Posey is Posey. So if you want to spend a catcher, go with Posey.
Dink says the screen capture Davis. His eyes are great. Yeah, Davis goes up. He goes into the camera and then back. He is notorious for really.
It's because I don't look at my actual camera very often. I'm looking at stuff on my screen, but when I'm making a point, I want to say it to the camera.
Yeah. Rotohobo says he's never paid for a catcher either. Listen, I think you either go big or you go home with the catcher. I think that paying up for a Rosario or a Buster Posey, even a McCann.
I don't mind paying for Wieters, in good spots.
Wieters is another guy, albeit a switch hitter. I think, yeah, paying up for Posey, you shouldn't have a problem with that.
So you don't mind paying up for a
Jake in the
catcher, Dave,
chat.
but a second baseman or a shortstop is completely off the table for you?
No, you can't.
Never.
I'm either. I just don't want to go with in the middle tier there.
Yeah, you get Jed Jerko off at Dave's teams.
If you have if you're rolling with Pineda, you're gonna have to spend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think at that catcher spot is where you could kind of gain an edge, especially in cash games, where you could gain an edge over your opponent if they go weak. The same thing for shortstop. Either I'm going Tulo, or I'm going.
Tulo was one play I got right last night. He was one of my only hitters who didn't ground out to short every at bat.
Somehow, I mean, my hitters, I don't know yesterday about anyone else, my hitters kind of carried my team with Strasburg getting all of 3 points on FanDuel.
Yeah. And Derek, you're relatively new to the daily fantasy baseball scene as far as a big time player perspective. And I saw you noted earlier that you were surprised that you still were able to cash in some of the 50-50s and stuff. This is something that people just need to realize. Before you start jumping off a cliff, our good buddy Steve was notorious at this during NBA. if a player that he owned was not doing
He's
well,
the worst about it.
he would get mad. And a few other people that I know, I'm not going to name any other names. Steve, I feel comfortable with naming him. Is he in the chat? No, he's not.
Are you talking about? Oh, I mean, I do it. I would always do it with Al Jefferson.
Yeah, it's not just like saying that was a bad play, woe is me. I mean, everyone kind of does that. Certain people, Tommy G, do it more than others. But what I'm saying is that, like, when you throw the whole night away, you basically, without taking into account the percentage owned. Now, if everyone is on a certain player and that player is doing well, and you did not take that player, then feel free to start the pity party early. Like Strasburg last night, having him in your lineups did not mean that
he wasn't even 50% on FanDuel.
Well, in some like higher stakes leagues, he's like 50 to 75%. So, when a player is so highly owned, though, check the percentage owned before you start throwing in the towel. Because generally what needs to happen is that, like, if a player is 50% owned or 60% owned, then you still have hope with if your hitters capture above there. So, Derek is calling in on my phone for Skype. Something is amiss there. But basically, yeah, check the percentage owned before you start throwing in the towel. That is the basic rule of thumb there.
And can I make, before we move on to hitters, can I make one more point about pitchers?
Sure, yeah, I love it.
Dallas Keuchel versus the Royals. That's it. You can't trust him for cash games, and I don't think that this can happen. But he's an extreme ground ball pitcher, and the Royals just like to give up and roll over. Billy Butler has hit 2 balls out of the infield all year long, so not an awful GPP play.
Okay. That's fine with me. Can we? Are you okay to move on now?
Yeah, because I was gonna forget it if we moved on to hitters.
Okay. First base. Who are some guys you like at first base tonight?
Garrett Jones is the guy who I have in my lineups. I didn't want to. And we talked about this on the show yesterday. I'm not paying for Ortiz or for Cabrera in the same handed matchup. I'm just not going to do it.
Okay.
I don't think you should.
Yeah.
We're talking first base now, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have Garrett Jones in right now.
Who are some first basemen that you like, Derek?
I think Jones is a pretty good play. I think Agon is going to be my guy tonight. I just think Vogelsong is terrible. Even though the park shift is a little bit unfavorable. I think Agon with the platoon advantage against a really, really weak pitcher is a good play. I think Napoli, last night Boston didn't do what I expected them to. The temperature maybe had something to do with it. It's a little bit warmer tonight, but I still think, Napoli platoon advantage against a weak John Danks in a park that is just so, just so much better than what he's used to. Although I don't know, Napoli did play in Texas last year. I still think he's a good play, but I think Agon is my top guy today.
Yeah, Moustakas is not in the lineup for people that
or 2 years ago, rather, for Napoli, not last year.
That were wondering. Yes, Napoli was 2 years ago. Because he was always catcher first base eligible last year. I remember that for those Boston stacks. As far as paying up for Pujols tonight, yay, nay, Derek, am I wrong there?
I think Pujols is down on my list a little bit. I think he's a decent matchup tonight, but I think there's a lot of pretty good first basemen that you can look at before him. The only thing going, I think, in Pujols' favor is that a lot of these other first basemen, like Napoli and I don't know, a couple of the others that were on my list, are playing in cold weather, whereas in California, it looks like it's going to be close to 70 degrees to start the game. So I could see that maybe having you go towards Pujols, but I think there's other guys I would go to first.
Okay, such as Ben mentioned Adrian Gonzalez. Would you be okay with him in that California weather?
Yeah, that's who I was talking about before. He's my top first baseman today.
Okay. So you guys are basically on the same page with Adrian Gonzalez. If Ben and Derek are on the same page, you need to listen because it doesn't happen all that often.
Don't everyone out there, don't fall for the Billy Butler thing.
No?
Wait,
No,
are you saying don't play him or don't?
I'm saying don't play him.
Really? Why's
Yeah,
that?
what happens is when he goes to bat, the pitcher gets a metal ball and the shortstop has two huge magnets inside of his mitts. He grounded out to short 3 times last night and then hit a weak pop fly for his other at bat.
The thing with Butler though is I'm pretty sure his platoon split is pretty let me look, is pretty big, and tonight he has the platoon advantage where last night he didn't. Let me
Yeah.
see.
Jordan agrees with you, Davis. He says Billy Butler is so awful. And then Dink said you Davis panned him, so he wants to play Butler because you basically.
Is that what happens?
let
Is
him
it like
go off.
reverse? Is it? Do I reverse jinx players?
Yes, you do.
Do I even have those powers in baseball?
Sure, yeah.
I thought that was just limited to short wide receivers.
Second base, guys that you like. Start with you, Davis.
Well, it's only on Draft Street and I think DraftKings. Jerko is available at second base. Yeah or no?
On DraftKings,
I haven't started putting together lineups on DraftKings yet, but I like Infante more than him, anyways. Though.
okay.
I
But-
love me some Infante tonight.
He did have a good game last night. Ben does mention Jerko as the guy that you want to target, at least on Draft Street, Draft Day, and on FanDuel. Your thoughts, Derek, on second base?
I think Infante is a great play tonight. The thing that I was saying about Sal Perez and Butler kind of having to deal with Kugel's ground balls isn't really an issue for Infante since he's not much of a power guy anyway. So a guy like Infante at second base, or Alcides Escobar at shortstop, or Lorenzo Cain in the outfield, all have a great matchup tonight against Kugel. It looks like Pedroia is back in the lineup tonight. He could be a solid play. He looked pretty cheap, I think. It was FanDuel maybe last night. He wasn't in the lineup, or maybe 2 nights ago, I saw him on the list, and he looked really cheap. I haven't looked today yet. I think Dietrich for Miami, if he's playing. Let me see, is he... do we have a Miami lineup yet?
We do, and he's
batting
playing.
seventh.
Yeah, batting
There,
seventh.
yeah, so he's not bad. I think Howie Kendrick maybe is okay.
What about
Those?
you like to pay up for players? What about Ian Kinsler?
In Kinsler, he wasn't even on my radar, I don't think, tonight. No Kinsler tonight. I think McAllister's actually a pretty good pitcher. And I think he's actually a deceptively good play tonight, even against a strong Detroit offense, because they have very few lefties. He's going to have platoon advantage against everybody. And I don't know. At Kinsler, I'm not paying up for tonight.
So that means you're not paying up for like Martinez, Miggy. Like you don't like the Tigers tonight, basically, is what you're saying.
Not really. I think McAllister's better than people give him credit for, and if they're not at least getting the platoon advantage, I'm not putting all of my big money on that when there's kind of two factors going against them.
Interesting. Vegas has them as the second heaviest favorite, but with an 8 instead of a 7.5 than the Cubs and Yankees game. So I would say that Vegas is on the opposite side of that. Dink says McAllister good and Travis Wood terrible. You're dead to him. I think you offended him.
Is
Travis
Dink really
Wood
trying to
thing.
argue that Travis Wood is a quality pitcher? Is that what's happening in the chat room right now?
He mentioned Travis Wood earlier. He just basically wants you to know that he likes Travis Wood. I'm not sure if he's to the level of Davis or Derek Carty and Neil Walker love affair, but
Walker hit another bomb last night.
he did. I know. As soon as he did it, I laughed because someone in the chat asked yesterday if you were his agent. if you were Neil Walker's agent. So yeah, it was a good call by you. So Kyle wants to know if Dink is being a Cubs homer. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Wood and McAllister are the same pitcher. We need to get Dink on this show. We need to have like a serious nerd fight about this.
Well, I'm sure he would love to come on the show and debate.
Why hasn't he been on the show?
Listen, he made up some excuse yesterday about John Aguiar from DraftKings being in town. He wanted to get him on. He wanted to get him on for batting practice on the field and couldn't make the show, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah. For those that do not know, Drew is like a clubhouse favorite there in Miami. So
let's favorite. Stanton doesn't even know his name.
I disagree.
If Stanton knows Drew's name, then my fanboyness for Drew is not as intense as it needs to be.
I'm pretty sure that Stanton came up to him and said, "Can you sign this Dink piece, this piece of paper?"
Well, then Drew should have been like, "Hey, take it easy on Strasburg tonight." So I don't believe you.
And then Numbers Guy 81 says, "Nerd fight, so you don't want to throw punches." I cannot see Drew and Derek getting into. I don't see them as being fighters. They're more lovers.
Civilized.
Yeah, Davis, I can see getting in a fight.
Oh yeah, I'll fuck somebody up.
No, you did not just say that. Have you ever been in a big time fight, Davis, with weapons?
Not with weapons, but yeah, I've been in a couple fights.
Of course you have. I think I've been in a couple wrestling matches with friends that made me mad. Ben Pritchett being one of them.
Oh, well, who wouldn't want to fight Brendan Pritchett?
It's true. He was so fun to pick on. This was in high school. He was practicing with the line. I was with the running backs. And it was muddy, and so I kept on throwing mud at them. And so did some of the other running backs. And Ben said, "Next person," he turns around and says, "Next person that throws mud is going to get it." So, of course, I took the biggest mud ball I could and pegged him right in the back of the head where it just stuck on the back of his helmet. And he turns around and gets these huge eyes and starts chasing me around. And he made the mistake of going low. So I just took him and basically flung him to the ground, got on top of it, hoping that people would pull us apart before he got any sort of leverage. That's my Ben Pritchett story of the day since he's not on this week. I'm telling you, I have so many Ben Pritchett stories. That's just one of them.
Well, I think we need to talk about how he wore makeup on the show the other day.
He just gets his cheeks get really red, and so do his lips, especially if he's drinking wine. Next one that throws something is gonna get it. All right,
let's talk about outfielders.
Outfielders. No, third baseman. Third baseman.
Mm.
Who do you like at third?
Donaldson.
Dongoldson? Dongoldson.
Stop.
All right. Derek, who do you like?
I also like Donaldson. I think he'd be my top play today.
Yeah.
Yep, Donaldson. I think Headley's okay too. I think Freeze is okay, but Donaldson is my guy.
Probably not going to like the fact that Ben, I guess, his leftover third baseman, because Brett Lowry is not going to be playing tonight. That game has been postponed until tomorrow. They're playing a doubleheader. But he listed Lowry, who is not playing. So his next available options are Dongoldson, and then you're not going to like the Pablo call versus your boy Mahalam.
He's not necessarily my boy. I just think he's better than people give him credit for.
You pretty much have made him your boy.
I think Solarte is actually a decent play in places where his price isn't super high based on his fast start.
Let's see. Yeah, he also mentions his last play in the also considered list is Uribe, who Sleb94 wants to know about. Thoughts on Juan?
Let's see. Uribe.
Nah.
Yeah,
No, actually,
I like. No, go ahead.
Any Dodger's probably okay against Vogelsong.
Yeah, he doesn't have the platoon, But against Vogelsong, I mean, you could probably do worse for the price that Uribe is going to command. I think he's a better hitter in general than people give him credit for. And his platoon split is very small. So I could definitely see Uribe against Vogie tonight.
Basically, you have at third base on DraftKings, he's 500 more than Pablo on FanDuel. Pablo is 100 more. So if those two guys are, I'd rather have Pablo than Uribe tonight.
You're saying that Uribe is more expensive than Pablo on one site?
On DraftKings, yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, I think you have to go with Pablo over Uribe if the prices are similar.
We did have a question before we get to the outfielder. Sports is Fixed wants to know, he's fairly new to DFS baseball, wants to be recommended either stacking in 50-50s or more in GPPs. Definitely more in GPPs for stacking.
If you read Jonathan Bales' book, where he got the data from DraftKings, teams that won in 50-50s, like finished in the top half of 50-50s, more often than not had at least 4 players from the exact same team. So
yeah,
that was the most optimal strategy according to the results over a full season.
Well, and I think it warrants like that. Like playing 4 players is be a mini stack. I think like when you were stacking 5 or 6 players over there on DraftKings, I'd be anxious to see how going from 4 to 5 players or 5 to 6.
Well, if I can do a little visual representation, this is what it was like. It was like 1, 2, 3 were pretty flat. 4 had like a 20% spike. 5 was like 5% decrease from that, and then it just went gradually down until 8 didn't win very often. It was like a standard normal distribution.
Can you do that again though? I've got it fully panned up on you. So
you
got
so
the
it
whole
was just
camera.
like it was flat from like 2, 3, like 1, 2, 3, and then 4 had like a 20% spike, and then it decreased from 5 down to 7, just like a bell curve.
So was 5 more than 3 then?
Wait, maybe I got it wrong. Hodge is telling me that I got it wrong. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever. The point is, you should buy Bales' book because it'll help you win if you remember what it says.
If you interpret it correctly.
Yeah. I guess 4 was sticking out in my mind for whatever reason, but I guess it was 3.
Yeah. 3 better than 4. That's like the mini stack. So that's what I would encourage. You talk about like team success. When you can find multiple hitters from the same lineup that have a good matchup against a pitcher who is set to get rocked in a pitcher's park or in a hitter's park, then I think that is what you want to target as far as 50-50s go. When you start taking like a player here, a player there, a player here, a player there, it's very much hit or miss. Now, if you want to do that, someone won a big DraftKings tournament doing that last year. Basically, every player they took hit a home run. And there wasn't a lot of team totals that were high that night. So it is a strategy, just playing one person from each team. But I like to do like either a 4-2-2 or a 3-3-2 or a 3-2-2-1. Those are all the strategies that I like to use for my lineups. And really, if you use like a mini stack lineup, I still feel comfortable using a mini stack lineup in those 50-50s or cash games, where you use 4 players from the same team and then do 2 and 2.
All right, I'm gonna try and find this data in Bales' book. I just pulled it up. It's gonna take a minute, so you guys can talk about outfielders.
Okay, well, let's talk about outfielders then. Who do you like at outfield, Derek?
Let's do this. Outfield. I think Alfonso Soriano against my whipping boy today, Travis Wood, looks like a good play. I think Beltran looks pretty good too, in the same lineup if you're going for like a little mini Yankee stack there. Not as good as Soriano, but Beltran looks pretty good. I think against Vogie, I think Andre Ethier or Carl Crawford look pretty good. Like I said before, Lorenzo Cain against Dallas Keuchel. Great matchup. I haven't seen the lineup yet. Is Alex Presley playing for Houston tonight?
Um,
I'm looking. He.
I don't think so.
Oh, he's not. George Springer is now supplanted him.
Yes.
Okay, forget about him then.
Got to put him in all your lineups, right?
Where he's available, I think.
Seriously?
Springer for minimum salary?
I know nothing about him.
On draft day. I mean, he's like the fantasy baseball boy toy. So, Derek, your thoughts on Springer tonight?
Springer tonight is decent play. Well, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen any of his prices yet. How does that look? Is he like super cheap because he's just coming up?
He's not available pretty much on every site except for draft day where he's minimum salary.
As minimum salary, I think you have to play him. Guthrie's a bad pitcher, even though he's a righty. Springer is, one of the, elite hitting prospects that are going to come up this year. He's batting second at home in a good Houston park. For the minimum salary, I think you got to play him.
Yeah, looking at some of the other outfielders, Davis, are you on Stanton?
No, I like Cespedes.
I was just going to say Cespedes looks pretty good too. A little lower than some of the other guys I mentioned, but Cespedes looks good.
I like Cespedes and Donaldson.
Mm-hmm. I think Seth Smith and Will Venable look good in San Diego tonight, especially if you're playing the late set of games.
Yeah, Ben goes out on a limb and mentions Mike Trout as his top overall play tonight. We'll say that when Ben has recommended Mike Trout, he has done good stuff. So, yeah.
I think if you've got some money to throw around tonight, like if you're going with, Pineda, who's super cheap, or like someone else like that, or if you're going with like a super contrarian play like Mahalam or McAllister tonight, then I think Trout, he has a good, if not great matchup. I kind of like Tommy Milone a little bit, but, he's, slightly above average at best. So Trout, has a good matchup there.
All right. And I think if you do go cheap on pitching, I think having Trout and Pujols in your lineup is something that I would like to do. He also lists Cespedes as number 2, and Justin Maxwell, especially he says for the stack value, and Maxwell is in the lineup, batting 7th, 2.7 there on DraftKings, going up against Kuchel. So
I think that's a decent call. Maxwell is like super cheap power, and he is getting a better park for it. I mean, Kukul gets ground balls, but that's about the only thing working against Maxwell tonight. I think also his platoon split is like enormous. Let me look him up.
Dave, if you want to, I have my screen shared if you guys want to see the profitability.
Big. Yeah.
All right.
So that's the graph from Bales's book. So basically, when you stack, you want to get at least 6 players, because then the probability of scoring 150 points jumps by a whole percentage point once you get to 6 players. But the ideal combination is 7.
Yeah. I think, though, the question was talking about the GPPs versus head-to-heads.
Yeah.
So this isn't saying...
So that kind of lends support to the stack in GPP argument because...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that... I think, though, for head-to-head games, which is kind of what they were asking, I think for head-to-head games and 50-50s, that you don't want to do that, though. Because what that graph is showing you is the high upside that is available when you play. It's not showing you that the average score when you played those players. That would be something I would be interested in seeing.
I think it's all in here. I haven't. This is and this copy of the book is not searchable because this was the he sent this to me before the book got published. I copy edited it for him, so it's
Davis.
not searchable.
Can you name drop any more? I got a pre-release copy of Matthew Berry's book while I was in Chicago. He signed it for me.
Swag.
I did. True story. Okay. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes to take your questions. Slev94 says, wait, so many stacks aren't useful? That's not what... I hope that's not what Davis is saying, because mini stacks
no.
are useful. I got to
stack every day.
Vegas on the backs of 2 mini stacks. Write that down. It rhymed. But without those mini stacks, it would not have been there. I think they are useful. They do serve their purpose. I've seen high stakes players in 50-50s and high stakes head-to-heads or high stakes 50-50s this season play mini stacks, where I saw STL and I forget who else it was played basically the whole Cubs Pirates roster. They were playing in the same game, but played them in all their cash games the other day. So I think it all is relative. I mean, really, with anything, there can be multiple strategies. Let's see, shortstops. Yes, we didn't cover shortstops. Hanley, is that the guy that you're looking at the shortstop position, or do you really like Vogelsong, Derek?
I definitely don't really like Vogelsong. But I don't know. Hanley has a decent matchup tonight. Not a great one, I don't think. The park shift is unfavorable. He doesn't have the platoon advantage, and his platoon split is high-ish. So I think I would probably, unless you really just need to spend big, just because you have to spend your money, I don't think I'd be going with Hanley tonight. I think D. Gordon looks like a better bet than he is. I think Alcides Escobar looks like a good play. Obviously not.
I like Bogarts.
Not better overall, but better profit wise. These guys are better.
Yeah, Davis, you like the play, or Ben lists Hanram first, and then has a second list of the guy that you like for tonight.
Bogarts, yeah, I don't want to pay for Hanley. I mean,
Bogarts looks good too.
He'll probably hang dong, but whatevs. Hey, Paul Maholm's biggest fan. Would you pay $11K for him on Draft Street as your third pitcher today?
$11K on Draft Street?
Because it just doesn't quite work to get Pineda and Cashner in there, both for $17K.
Come on, Derek. Put your money where your mouth is, you little Maholm lover, you.
For $11K, go for it.
Bang. That's going to be my third pitcher on Draft Street. I think I'm going Cashner over Pineda, though, so that I can put my money where my mouth is. Cue the one-hit shutout by Pineda.
With that Bogarts play, you've got Johnny Gomez, as we call him, 3.7K on DraftKings. He's pretty cheap on FanDuel. Batting cleanup.
Yeah, I forgot to mention him. He looks great tonight, actually.
Thanks.
I mean, the temperature being the only, potential downside with him. Gomes looks awesome.
Favorite team stacks that we like, the Royals would be one of them. It sounds like the Red Sox would be another. And anybody else, any other teams that you like? I like the Angels tonight.
I don't mind a full Dodger stack, just hoping that Vogelsong implodes.
I think there's some good Dodgers stackable guys. I think maybe a mini Yankee stack, maybe a little mini Houston stack.
Oh yeah, Guthrie's bad too. So like a Houston stack could be super profitable and way off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Yeah, Slab94 wants to know about the Dodgers. I think we
both just said that.
Yeah, and it's nice when you can also get a stacks or mini stacks that feature a good shortstop, a good catcher, good second baseman, those rare positions.
That's not cost-effective stacking, Dave. We talked about it yesterday.
I like it, though. I like it because you can go cheap pitching and go with the heavy stack. Like
the Royals is that tonight, like in terms of Alcides and Infante are both they're both like mid-value guys kind of at those positions, but you can get both of your middle positions covered with a Houston or with a Kansas City stack tonight.
Perez is pretty cost-effective too.
Yeah, I like Perez too. I think Kane looks good. Even Butler looks good.
You could stack the whole Royals team and probably take Darvish on DraftKings still.
Yeah, I mean, you got Valencia at 2.5, Maxwell 2.7. The only player above 4 is Gordon at 4.1, so you could definitely take you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd let Gordon go tonight, even just especially at that price.
Kyle wants you to stop giving away his team, Davis.
He's a better player than me, so I think it's probably going to be okay.
Well, I mean, I would say you guys need to do a head-to-head to figure that out.
Cool. Let me find out which accounts I still have money on.
Oh, to be in college. Good stuff, guys. Tomorrow we'll be joined by you both will have the day off, so don't worry. I will be joined by Laffy D, by Tuttle, and by Napster Man. So it's going to be
swag.
It's going to be a pretty fun show. It's going to be all sorts of craziness, energy drinks, northern accents, Pacific Coast accents. I don't even know. But yeah, today was kind of, Wednesdays are kind of the boring days, but we got through it. We went through it. So
Is it like the opposite of basketball? Wednesday's the bad day?
Yeah, Tuesdays and Fridays are the big days for baseball.
Okay.
As far as during the week. But yeah, speaking of basketball, tonight, last NBA regular season night, everyone is basically questionable or out. So if you are playing that DraftKings 50K mega crossover, make sure that you are looking at the news because there's going to be a lot. All right, that'll do it. Davis, any parting words from you, sir?
Nah, I got nothing. I got nothing clever to say.
Oh, which is...
it's a first.
Yeah, it really is. Derek, what about you?
No, nothing really. I mean, I think use your cash game guy tonight, although I think Pineda is a very viable cash game option, especially at his price. I mean, Pineda is a very viable cash game option. And I think if you're going GPP and you really want a contrarian play, I think Zach McAllister. Like, very contrarian and, like,
I think Keuchel
blow up
is
risk
GPP.
for sure, but...
Ethier, Nava, or Kane?
Ethier, then Kane, then Nava.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll end it. Thanks for joining us, guys. Join us tomorrow, same time, same place, 5 p.m. Eastern here on Insiders TV. Later. Neither of you cuss before I get done stopping the stream.